So that is one thing that we can look for European countries to do more when we talk about doing more.
So that's the US State Department in Washington, D.C., from their Foggy Bottom headquarters there. We're joined by the ambassador for the Ukraine here in the United Kingdom. Ambassador, welcome to our programme. The State Department there was kind of implying that the European allies are not fully imposing the sanctions against Russia they're meant to. Do you agree with that?
No, we are now on the stage when we are, of course, encouraging our European partners to take certain steps and not to, again, to publish statements that they are concerned or that they're deeply concerned or something of that kind. So now we have some quite positive feedback from the Commission Ukraine NATO in Brussels, also from the UN Security Council. So our next step is also to look at the G20 summit, which will be opened tomorrow in Argentina. And I think it would be very good if the European leaders, the UK leader also, I know it's difficult for Theresa May to speak to Mr. Putin, but still to encourage also him to stick to the international law in the Sea of Azov.
Now, the Sea of Azov has two important Ukrainian ports, and you do a lot of trade through this. The only way out is through the Straits of Kerch, and they're controlled by the Russians. They recently opened a new bridge, I think, across from Crimea into another part of Russia. What do you read as the Russian aims here? What do you think they're out to achieve?
Unfortunately, for me, it's quite obvious that after the annexation of Crimea in 2014, it's already 4 years ago, Russians started gradually to block our ships, and not only Ukrainian ships, but all international ships, from going into the Sea of Azov to the ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk. So they were using technical things like, for example, putting a big ship under the Kerch bridge,
under the bridge,
and just blocking the strait and creating a very big queue of ships. Or another tactics was to detain ships like for additional technical inspections or checks. And if you can imagine, if we are speaking, for example, about the ship which was carrying food, so another 3 or 4 hours of staying, it can be a disaster for all the business ties. So they were using like this technical step.
But what was their aim? What are they trying? Are they trying to provoke you? I mean, the Ukrainian Navy, I think you lost most of your Navy in Sevastopol,
yeah, exactly,
when Crimea was taken over by the Russians. So you can't afford a sea clash. But are they trying to provoke you into a clash?
I think they were trying also to show like who is the big guy in the house. So for us not to have any possibility in the future, like not to ask them beforehand in advance that we would like to pass through the Kerch Strait. Another thing is also to endanger the ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk, because
these are the two ports on Ukrainian territory.
Yes, exactly, and they already, witnessed the decline in their trade flow. So the ships now are trying to do everything in order to omit Ukrainian ports in the Sea of Azov. So I think that was the main message of the Russian authorities, like who is the guy in the house, who is the boss, exactly.
I've seen reports that the build-up of Russian tanks on the Ukrainian border has grown substantially in recent days. Can you confirm that? And how worried would you be by that?
It was also the statement of the President Poroshenko yesterday about the increase of the quantity of Russian tanks. And of course, I do believe that our intelligence services and the information. And this one is also like another front. So we also witnessed this in the past. So Russians are trying, to give us a blow at different fronts. So infringing us in the Sea of Azov, immediately doing something provocative in Donbass. So I can expect something in the coming days about the economic cooperation. So at one point last year, they stalled all the transits through their territory, and we were blocked from transporting our goods to Kazakhstan and Central Asia.
Which had to go through Russian territory.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, Russians are very sophisticated in creating something new all the time. And unfortunately for us, we are not so, rapid sometimes to provide a clear response to that.
What should the West's response be? Do we stand by Ukraine?
Well, I lived and worked in Russia for 3 years in St. Petersburg, and the ambassador is absolutely right. They're utterly ruthless. When they decide to come after you, they don't stop. I mean, I think